battle to destroy the Affordable Care Act is about to begin again. Senate Republicans had their recess. They are now back, and it's expected that by tomorrow we will have the new version of the Senate health care bill with new concessions designed to try to get it to the 50 votes they need to eventually have the vice president to break the tie and have it become law, thereby repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. So we have McConnell predicting sort of the timeline. You're going to see that in this clip right here.
The news of the day is that, as I think you already know, we'll be on health care next week. We'll be laying out a revised version of the repeal and replace effort, the text of that. On Thursday morning, we hope to have a CBO score by the beginning of the week and a motion to proceed to that bill next week. We're going to do health care next week. And in the reconciliation process, of course, you get to the end. It can sometimes be as a result of exhaustion, but you can get to an end.
They're so exhausted they actually have to work for a little bit longer than expected.
Yeah.
They were planning to come back from 4th of July vacation, which you're thinking 4th of July vacation. Yeah, theirs is way, way longer than ours.
Yeah.
So they're just next week going to come back from it. And then they were going to go right back, or they came back to it, I think, recently. But it was over a week long. And now they're going to go, we're planning to go on another 5 to 6 week vacation.
Jeez.
But now they might have to come back and roll up their sleeves. And work a whole 3 or 4 months of the year. Anyway, so a little bit of credit to them. If these plans go into effect, they are going to put some of the tax cuts back, meaning they were going to do these giant tax cuts. And now at least some of them are going to go back in for revenue. That's 3.8% tax on investment income that was in Obamacare might remain to get some of those moderate voters, and a 0.9% Medicare payroll tax on wages and self-employment income might also stay in, so that there's actually some revenue in this bill.
Yeah, so let's break down some of the details. The concessions, as Cenk said, include keeping in place some of the taxes, providing more revenue, and especially money going to particular states. Not mentioned there, but it's believed that at least one of the versions that we'll see will include more money to help deal with the opioid epidemic across America. There's a rumor that it could go from $2 billion in this fund to $48 billion, which again is not as much as is expected to actually deal with the problem, but it's significantly more funding and could theoretically get them a vote, possibly. But it is expected that there will be at least 2 draft bills. One that includes an amendment sponsored by Ted Cruz and Mike Lee to allow insurance companies to sell plans that do not comply with federal regulatory requirements. So what's interesting there is that there could be 2 different plans which have more than that one difference between them. So we will have to break down and analyze both of them. But this looks like a way to get Lee and Cruz to sign on, and their idea basically increases freedom across America by making it so that there will be at least one plan by an insurance carrier that actually provides coverage, and then there will be a bunch of other garbage plans of the sort that we had before the ACA that you will still have to pay for, but will not actually help you in the event of a major life emergency. And that is what they need to sign on, Lee and Cruz, and it's expected that that's one of the things that might actually be there.
So when you have those different plans, the reason why it's a joke is that they say, no, one will follow the requirements that currently exist, including covering pre-existing conditions, and others don't have to. Well, if you set it up that way, the one that covers pre-existing conditions will be more expensive because it'll include people who have pre-existing conditions who you know are going to get sick to some degree, right? And if you sign up for the version of the one that does, that covers mainly healthy people and young people, well, that one's going to be cheaper. But what's that going to create? It's going to create all the healthy and young people going to that plan, thereby leaving the one that covers the pre-existing conditions to be super expensive.
It creates a de facto high risk pool.
Yeah, and
out of the current plans, basically.
And so the more expensive it gets, the harder it's going to be for people to afford that plan and for the government to be able to afford the subsidies for that plan. So that creates what they call a death spiral, which then creates a literal death spiral for people with pre-existing conditions. So, but for Cruz and his allies, it's a win-win. But one, they do the Republican plan, which is if you're already in good shape, we'll give you more. Okay, things will be even better for you, right? Oh, God help you if you've got any kind of condition. You had a setback in your life, we are going to crack your back and we're going to be done with you.
Yeah.
And so every man for himself. If you're already well off, great. If you're not, you're in a world of trouble. The second advantage is they then turn around, and when the plan with the pre-existing conditions that was originally modeled on Obamacare starts its death spiral, then Cruz will turn around and go, you see that? We told you Obamacare was never gonna work. We left it's the main part of it intact, but other people wanted the other insurance. So now the one that actually covers people, it's unaffordable. We told you Obamacare was terrible. So then they kill it entirely.
Yeah.
And then if you've got a pre-existing condition, God help you, because he's the only one left.
And that's just the latest act of sabotage. That, I mean, over the past 8 years, under Obama, there were multiple ways that they effectively sabotaged the future of the ACA. It's not in the bad shape that they imply that it is. The CBO report made that clear, but it did make it more difficult to keep prices down and things like that. Now, some people just a few days ago, including John McCain, were saying that the bill is effectively dead, and they were so sure that it's definitely not going to pass. I think that is crazy to get presumptuous about that. But it is still going to be a challenge for McConnell to come up with one bill that is going to satisfy all of the different concerns that these various Republican senators have. We want to show you a couple of little comparisons on particular issues of people on different sides of the issue to give you an idea of how complicated it might be. So in terms of how much regulation there should be on plans, in terms of pre-existing conditions, things like that, you have people who want to take away those regulations. And there you're seeing on the left Mike Lee and Ted Cruz particularly want to have all these plans that don't protect, the essential healthcare benefits and have the caps and don't allow for those with pre-existing conditions. But then you have people, who won't vote for a bill that don't have those protections. Moving on to the next one, you're gonna see Medicaid funding. Obviously the bill, as we previewed, has hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts to Medicaid. And there you're seeing the people who want an expansion of Medicaid or a maintenance of what they already have. Their concerns, that's quite a few senators there. And then in the final one, you're gonna see some differences on the government spending and tax credits. And there's other names that you could add in there as well. Ted Cruz is complaining about the amount that's still going to be there for subsidies. And so these are pretty big issues for McConnell and the Republicans to push through, but hardly impossible, especially if they can theoretically generate a few $100 billion of government funds to toss into whatever they need to buy people off.
So the people who kept saying, "Oh no, they can't, it's impossible, it's dead. Republicans won't be able to put this bill together." My main response to you is, "Come on!"
About the House version.
Come on! How many times do we have to go through this before you learn? So this is a particular dance that they go through. So when the bill is first introduced, you have the most conservative guys in the Senate, Cruz, etc., that come out and go, "Oh no, I can't. This is outrageous. I need a lot more concessions." And then you'll have a couple of moderates who will say, "Nah, I can't sign on. I need some concessions too." Sometimes they'll mean it and sometimes they won't. So then everybody will go, "Oh my God, Wheezy, take me now." It's not Wheezy. Anyway, so we're never gonna get this done. It's a Sanford and Son reference with the wrong name. Anyway, we're never gonna get this done, right? And then lo and behold, they get together, and after the haggling, conservatives will get more than what the moderates get most of the time. In this case, the tea leaves seem like maybe the moderates are gonna, quote unquote, moderate Republicans, such as they are, will get a little bit more than the conservatives, but we'll see. Yeah. But at the end of the day, do they want to kill Obamacare? Yes. Do their donors want it killed so that they can mainly get their tax cuts back? Still the majority of the tax cuts would be returned to them, right? Yes. So they will do as their donors command them. And so I kind of hate the soap opera of it. Yeah. So please spare me all the things about it can't, it will, oh my God. As if they have honest, principles and they're trying to negotiate over principles. Well, no, their donors are negotiating, and overall they're all gonna make hundreds of billions of dollars by repealing Obamacare, so very, very, very likely they will.
Look, maybe you're right about the Senate. I think it's all a big sham because Trump already said he won't vote for a bill that doesn't have heart and everybody needs to be covered. So like all this Senate stuff, what are we wasting our time for? Yeah, now look, the CBO is gonna get both versions of the bill. And what I think is a little bit scary is that, so you alluded to some of the tax cuts. They might theoretically keep a few of the smaller ones in. Others, they might keep them for a few years. And what that seems designed to do is to effectively trick people with the CBO estimate. Because the CBO estimate will now have 5 years of the taxes still being there. So that'll change the numbers quite a bit, make it look better financially. But those tax cuts will still go away, or the taxes will still go away eventually. We're simply postponing the horrific outcome that we saw in the earlier version of the CBO report. But it might fool some people in the mainstream media and some Trump supporters into supporting this bill. This bill, again, the least popular piece of legislation for something like 3 decades.
Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.